Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
And good Sunday morning. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right is John Hancock.
Top of the morning.
On the left, Megan Huff in for Michael Kelley.
Good morning.
Good morning, Megan. Thank you. I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda, the madness returns to St. Louis, and we don't need basketball. Mobs of young people stoke crime and chaos here. The state of Missouri now taking notice. Democrat Juliana Stratton in the U.S. Senate race and Republican Darren Bailey in the governor's race. They post big wins in the Illinois primaries, and Bailey distances himself from President Trump. As the U.S. Senate mulls over President Trump's nomination of Mark Wayne Mullen to be the next Homeland Security Secretary, a senator from Missouri urges Mullen's confirmation. And our quote of the week, the bracket racket from politicians. Why do they make so much noise about their NCAA tournament picks? And if you're going to do it, for instance, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, should you at least pick the home team? Also, from St. Louis to Franklin County, the data center debate hits marathon status. 5-hour, even 10-hour public hearings are elected leaders ignoring the message. But we begin with the chaos on the streets of St. Louis. Last weekend, police say mobs of young people took over city streets, reckless driving, fighting, gunfire followed. Police respond with a new 10 p.m. weekend curfew now.
Parents, I want to be clear. This is your one and only warning.
The police chief mincing no words. Police vowed there would be no repeat of last weekend with the NCAA tournament here this weekend, and thousands of visitors in town for that. Police say the issue is students from the city and outside of the city on spring break and parents allowing them to gather unsupervised. Police say a 14-year-old girl was shot at one gathering and another young person injured while hanging outside of a moving car. John, the mayor's response was much less forceful than the police chief. She says she supports police, but will work with the Office of Violence Prevention to, quote, mitigate these activities in the future. Is it time to start throwing young people into police cars and make their parents come and get them, and maybe charging their parents for contributing to juvenile delinquency?
Yeah, and you know, the other thing, this thing wasn't organic. This was planned, obviously. And there was a social media network of folks figuring this out. I wonder if our police were onto that ahead of time. Because if you are onto it ahead of time and you know where the locations are going to be, you dispatch the officers early and never let the crowd get formed. And that didn't happen here. And then we've got, of course, a shortage of police officers in St. Louis. So they physically could not cover all of the various places where these kids were hanging out. And as we have found out, it was very dangerous and life-threatening.
They had a similar thing at Citizens Park in Belleville, Illinois last weekend as well. Megan, what's the better approach here? The chief saying, parents, this is your one and only warning? Or the mayor saying, it's time for the Office of Violence Prevention to mitigate these activities?
I think there's space for both approaches dependent on the circumstance. In this situation, this is spring break. These things happen all over the country. So let's not get it wrong that this is a St. Louis problem. This happens everywhere. This goes on everywhere for years. When it's particularly young people, dealing with parents is the right way to go. I am the least fun parent on the planet. I think all children should be home at 8 p.m. They should be in the basement watching TV, hanging out. I 100% support holding parents accountable, having an earlier curfew, particularly, let's be honest, in an urban environment. People can get caught up in other groups, so even if your kid goes out to hang with their friends and they see something else going on, it's easy for things to spin out of control, and that is clearly what has been happening here.
And the curfew is temporary, at least not, it's in place for the foreseeable future. And if you're with a parent or a guardian past 10 o'clock, it's okay.
Absolutely.
Just not unsupervised.
Common sense.
Yeah, and all of this comes as Republicans in the state legislature push a bill to toughen the state's juvenile code. The state's top legal official, the Missouri Attorney General, is certainly taking a tougher stance than the city's mayor.
It's just tragic that there's that kind of unrest and violence throughout the city. It wasn't in one location. It just is evidence to me that we need more police officers and we need to pay them more.
The bill has been sent to the governor's desk. It would allow prosecutors to request that juveniles accused of most serious felonies would be prosecuted as adults. Repeat felony juvenile offenders could also be prosecuted as adults. 3 serious felonies in 180 days, you're off to adult court. It would also lift the shield that keeps police from being able to access a juvenile offender's criminal history. Names and fingerprints of juveniles arrested for serious crimes would be included in the state's criminal database. Megan, most opposition to this comes from Democrats. Why would that be?
I actually can't understand why it would be. I think that there were a number of Democrats who voted for this legislation. Look, it is a tough situation to talk about 14, 15, 16-year-olds engaging in serious crimes. It's devastating. No one wants to have to talk about how you deal with that because it's terrible that it's going on. But it is a fact of the reality that we live in now with social media, with the access to guns that this state has allowed to occur. There are serious problems, and we clearly have to come up with a new approach. Now, I do certainly hope that there are going to be protocols in place to protect young people, and it sounds to me that the situation they've put in place, multiple offenses in a short period, right? There's going to be some guardrails to ensure that a kid who makes a mistake isn't just all of a sudden thrown into jail with a bunch of adults and they have no business being there. It does seem like this has some pretty common sense guardrails in place. And I don't understand why a few Democrats would be against it whenever we clearly have issues that need to be addressed and what we've been doing is not working.
Should the governor sign this, John? And even if he does, it doesn't address the issue that the Attorney General just mentioned, that this chaos seems to erupt in places where the young offenders know the police are not going to be. And they know the police are not going to be in the city of St. Louis.
So the bigger problem with juvenile crime in this country is that there are, in every urban center in this country, there are gangs, drug gangs in place. And these drug gangs purposely go out and recruit teenage kids to go break into cars, steal guns, commit crimes, run drugs, because they know that those kids will avoid the consequences of that action. And this legislation, at least, would equip prosecutors to take a serious look and put a disincentive in place for these gangs to go out and recruit teenage kids.
And it is a little different these days, is it not? I mean, we were all young once. I can remember being high school age and large groups of young people gathering. There might be a fight break out, who knows, but there wasn't gunfire.
No, and John makes an excellent point. I mean, there's different circumstances in an urban environment than perhaps a further out suburban collar, a more mid-Missouri environment that I grew up in. There are different factors at play when you're out unsupervised late at night and you're a 14-year-old kid who's never going to make a great decision. I think it's why doing multiple approaches is the right answer. Having a curfew, holding parents accountable, enabling prosecutors to understand people's background so that they can more adequately charge. It's the right way to go.
And lifting that shield on juvenile criminal records may be a bigger deal than anyone thinks. Like, it's sort of a throw-in to the reform legislation, but it seems like a pretty big issue.
It is a big deal. I remember when I was a kid, they said it's going to go on your permanent record, whatever you did.
Maybe now it will.
Yeah.
All right, now to the first big election contest of this crucial midterm election year, the 2026 Illinois primaries. In the Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by retiring longtime Senator Dick Durbin, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton rode the tailwinds of heavy support from J.B. Pritzker and upset the frontrunner, Raja Krishnamurthy, a Chicago congressman. Polls showed him leading by double digits just 6 weeks ago. What does this tell you about Stratton and the impact of J.B. Pritzker? Megan.
I think it shows J.B. Pritzker is clearly popular. She's clearly great in her own right. I mean, you have to campaign on your own. As John and I both know, endorsements do not win elections. They simply don't. You have to have your own record. You have to communicate that well. You have to understand what the voters are looking for. What I took away from this was how much I admired J.B. Pritzker giving her the spotlight and trying to basically say, hey, this wasn't me. I support her. I'm proud to support her. I think that shows such an outstanding type of leadership that we need more of in this country. I appreciate it as a person who does this work to watch somebody be able to say, no, you did this on your own and I'm happy to support you. Let's think of somebody who would never be capable of doing that. And clearly the American people are tired of that because his poll numbers are tanking. So I think this shows a refreshed view on leadership that the American people are looking for.
Is there a Pritzker bump?
I don't know. I think this is more indicative of where we are in the state of primary elections generally. Because you had in Krishnamurthy, a very difficult name to pronounce, but you also had a kind of a mainstream center-left Democrat candidate with the money. He had 3 times the money. And Stratton is a progressive. So whereas Krishnamurthy wants to reform ICE, Stratton wants to eliminate ICE. I mean, that's a very progressive position. Medicare for all is her position on health care. And that's what's prevailing in these primaries, is the more extreme candidates, both parties, are winning, and this is a really good example of that characteristic.
Pritzker ran unopposed in the governor's primary in his quest for a third straight term. The Republican nominee in 2022, Darren Bailey, faced a packed field this time around, and Bailey won in a landslide, 53% of the vote at last check. No one else even got to 30%. Bailey endured great personal tragedy with the loss of his son's wife, and two of their children in a helicopter crash in October. He stayed in the race, says he's a changed candidate, learned from 2022. Pritzker, in his victory speech, seemed to hint at his presidential ambitions in 2028, taking aim at President Trump and Republicans in Congress.
Everything we care about is under siege from Washington. Right now, grifters of corruption and selfishness, purveyors of bigotry and hatred, have taken control of the White House and the Congress. Their purpose is to make themselves and their dear leader richer, and to do it at the expense of the powerless and the most vulnerable.
My own person. There will be no outside influence dictating anything that we do here in Illinois. And let's talk about the ICE issue. I have no problem in seeing, because I've talked to the people, that this should have been done much differently. But let's back up, and what should have been the biggest difference? The biggest difference is we don't need federal agents in the state of Illinois. We could have been dealing with this with state and local law enforcement had J.B. Pritzker not got in the way. But unfortunately, J.B. Pritzker seems to hate President Trump more than he loves Illinois.
Anything telling here, guys, in Pritzker's attack on Washington, Bailey distancing himself a bit from the president on the immigration issue there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rematch from 4 years ago. Pritzker won handily. The environment this time is even more toxic for Republicans. So you're looking at a very difficult hill to climb.
For Bailey.
For Bailey.
Megan.
He's not climbing the hill. He's not going to get halfway up, I'm sure. No, I think John's absolutely right. It's clearly going to be a really similar replay of 4 years ago. I think Pritzker's doing an excellent job. I know some folks I am around in Southern Illinois strongly disagree, but I think he's setting himself up well for re-election. And his message is right where the American people are right now as it relates to Washington and Trump, as polls have shown us. So I think he's going to continue to do well, and I really enjoy watching him.
Ahead on Hancock and Kelley, area residents go on for hours, more than 10 hours, about why they don't want data centers. Are their elected leaders getting the message?
To hear more, listen to the podcast. Just search for Hancock and Kelley.
The debate over a proposal to turn the iconic St. Louis Armory site into a data center went on for about 5 hours during a public hearing in the city of St. Louis. That's nothing compared to the marathon debate in Franklin County this past week.
These are thousands of union jobs paying in excess of $100,000 a year.
But I would pause and reset and take a step back and make sure that the public's voice is heard, make sure that the guardrails and the rules that they're rewriting really protect the people.
More than 800 people packed a high school gym in Union as the Franklin County Planning and Zoning Commission weighed proposals to rezone hundreds of acres to allow for massive new data centers. Opponents fear a drain on the power grid and water service, along with threats to wildlife along the Merrimack River. 174 people addressed the commission over 10 plus hours, the vast majority in opposition to the proposal. The hearing ended at 4:39 a.m. John.
That's pretty late.
Yes.
You know, I think there's a lot of fear of the unknown going on out here. And you think data center, I saw one of the signs, they had the nuclear waste symbol on it. You know, we're not putting nuclear waste here, folks. These are data centers. This is what's running artificial intelligence. This is what the future of our economy is built on, like it or not. And we're either going to get into the race with these things and win these things and cite these things and reap the massive tax benefits that our local governments need very much. You take that armory site in the city, we're debating about we don't have any money to pay for the police. Well, there's a ready-made bunch of money right there. I mean, millions of dollars. And it doesn't use the water that the opponents claim. Most of these things are on a closed loop system with the water. Power, yeah, it takes a lot of power to run. And so make the facilities pay for the power that they're using, and they've got money.
This Planning and Zoning Commission took no action after all of that. They are only going to make a recommendation. But why not just say no? I mean, people are loud and clear, are they not?
People are loud and clear. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So whenever you are taking on something this controversial, I think it's really important for folks to take a step back and look at the individual projects. So I think everybody comes in with this assumption that some of the issues that we've seen in Texas, in England, and other places where they have different rules, different landscapes, different environments going on, that those same problems are going to just automatically be applied to any new data center ever, anywhere. And that's just not correct, but that is the fear that social media can stoke in a community. And it's understandable that people want transparency, they want accountability, and they want information. That being said, the city of St. Louis has data centers. Right now, today, I drive by it every single day on my way to work. And guess what? It's in a building that was otherwise unused. St. Louis City is excellent for this type of use, right? We have great water supply. We have a lot of buildings that are otherwise crumbling and sitting there, and we have a need for tax base. So I like to take it from an individual project stance, and so folks are going to have concerns no matter what when there's something new coming to their community. But I think it's really important for leadership to be transparent and to make sure the facts of the individual project are what's front and center, and not the fears from things that happen around the country or in other countries being applied to Missouri issues.
Still to come on Hancock and Kelley, our quote of the week: bracket time for politicians. Do voters really care? And a man named Mark Wayne faces verbal fireworks at a Senate committee hearing over his nomination to be Homeland Security Secretary. Republican Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, known for endorsing duels as a way to settle political disputes and for challenging a union official to a fight during a Senate hearing, is now President Trump's nominee to be the new Secretary of Homeland Security. He faced a contentious committee hearing over his nomination this past week.
ICE become a transport more than the front line.
You called Alex Preddy, quote, a deranged individual that came in to cause max damage.
I shouldn't have said that, and Secretary, I wouldn't. The investigation is ongoing.
That was regarding Mr. Preddy was killed during the confrontation with ICE in Minneapolis. He got out of committee with an 8-7 vote, but Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul was a no vote, and he really lame-basted Mullen. John Fetterman, the Democrat, was a yes. So was Josh Hawley. What do you think?
The man has an interesting disposition. I think someone who has shown this level of chaos and interest in aggression is maybe not the best person to clean up Kristi Noem's mess that was also full of chaos and aggression, but I'm not surprised in the least by any of it.
Is Mullen a good pick? Hawley says he's going to be approved.
Yeah, he's going to be.
He'll get confirmed by the full.
Mark Wayne, he's a former client of mine, Andy. Mark Wayne.
Yeah.
There's a guy whose parents couldn't agree what to name him. And they just kind of merged it all together. He will be confirmed. I think he will be better than Kristi Noem in that position. And, I wish him well.
Now to our quote of the week. Politicians, from former President Barack Obama to U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri, are posting on social media about their NCAA tournament bracket picks. Our quote is from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. He posted his bracket with the quote, "Locked in, Illinois, my March Madness picks are in." But Megan, if you look at his bracket there on the left, you see the Duke. He picks Duke, his alma mater, to beat Illinois, his state's flagship university. My alma mater.
He's not as delusional as our current president, so I'd say that's a plus.
That's all you have to say about that?
Illinois is clearly not going to win, so good job, Governor.
What? My line, no. But we won't get into the weeds on that. But
who cares?
Do you care?
I don't care. These guys are all trying to be relevant and connect, and I don't particularly find J.B. Pritzker particularly relatable for most people. I know you like him. I don't really, not my cup of coffee there, but his bracket, who cares?
All right, well, in fairness, he did pick the Illinois women to win it all. They really don't have a chance at that, but go Illini. Final thoughts are next. First, an inside look at Enterprise Center, hosting one more day of March Madness today. A big welcome to St. Louis to all of the teams and their fans. We're glad you're here. Final thoughts, Megan Huff.
Sometimes I pretend to be Michael Kelley. Happy spring, St. Louis. I know we're all ready for it to be warmer, more pleasant, and nice.
Sorry. John?
Well, something happened Friday, never happened in the history of snooker. Ronnie O'Sullivan with the biggest score in history. The greatest snooker player to ever live now holds the record for the most points in a single frame of snooker. Congratulations, Ronnie.
Yes, we have to look at our snooker brackets.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, John. Thank you, Megan Huff, not Megan Kelley. Remember, if it's Sunday in St. Louis, it's Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2. We'll see you next week.